Welcome to another episode of TMG People First podcast. We are here joined with Sam Richter. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you for the honor of asking me.
Yeah, we have our Mahoney Group Sales Summit. We've invited Sam. He's an internationally known speaker and author, and I will read his bio so I do him justice. He's an international recognized speaker, author, and expert on sales techniques. He is best known for teaching professionals how to leverage information, technology, and AI to create a competitive advantage and meaningful differentiation. He's the author of award-winning book, Take the Cold Out of Cold Calling, which has been widely recognized as one of the top sales and business networking books. As a certified speaking professional, Sam has delivered keynotes and workshops around the world, working with Fortune 500 companies, associations, and high-performing sales teams. His expertise sits at the intersection of technology, human behavior, sales strategies, and decision-making. And his daughter just got married this week.
That's a great bio. I like that. Can you send that to me? That was awesome.
There you go. I even had to cut it out. I even wanted to go even bigger. We put everything we've ever known about you, we've put everything we could find about you on the web and uploaded it to ChatGPT and said, give us an appropriate walk-up song for this gentleman.
Yeah, I don't know. I have an idea what I would do, but what would you do?
Okay, so this is what ChatGPT gave us. Daft Punk Around the World. Do you know that song?
I don't know, but it's not bad. Yeah.
What would you say? I'm going to find it and play
I would say, I can't remember the name of the artist, but remember that song? It's probably from the 80s or 90s. Somebody's Watching Me.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you always feel like somebody's watching me.
Oh, somebody. You do feel that is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the, it's like the chorus. No?
It sounds like my daughter's wedding.
Sounds like my daughter's
At the wedding, I said, you can do whatever you want. The only area where I want veto power is on the playlist. I said you got to start out with old people music because
there you go.
You got to get us old people out on the dance floor. You can't just have the young stuff. They did a great job.
That's awesome.
That's fun.
Kick it to you, Jason.
Right on. So, hey, we always ask our guests what's the first thing they think about when they wake up in the morning. So, Sam, what's the first thing
That's
you think about?
That's a great question. I guess I just think about the day, the tasks that I have. I love my job, so it's never a worry or an anxiety producing. It's an excitement. I'm fortunate that I have a technology company. I do speaking. I build courses. So every day it's something new. Now, usually, unfortunately, it's answering the 300 emails I got last night because I have not used AI for that, and we'll talk about why later, I'm sure. But that's what I look forward to is like, what exciting new thing can I do today?
Oh, right on. What's your background, Sam? How did you evolve or get into the tech space, into AI? So what's your evolution been like thus far?
Yeah, I think, you hear that old adage that you're going to have 7 careers in your life. I think I had 7 before I was 30. But so I started out in television news. I wanted to be an editor and worked for intern at CBS. Then I had a journalism degree at the University of Minnesota. And during that, I took an advertising class and really fell in love with the creativity of advertising and became a writer. Eventually became a creative director, worked for a lot of great firms. Owned my own agency, sold that, then got recruited to go work for a public relations firm in Minnesota. And all the firms I worked for had incredible leaders. I mean, just amazing leaders and mentors. So in the public relations firm, I got the chance to start dabbling in technology. In fact, one of the teams I was on, we built the first airline website, which at the time was Northwest Airlines.
Cool.
And we had to figure out how to sell tickets online and all that. So that was like the first dabble in technology. And then also helped lead the group that managed Microsoft's consumer technology division as a contractor in the agency. I was not a Microsoft employee. But we were doing, those was like joysticks and games and things like that. So we were doing some really cool technology. This was about 98, 99, and then got recruited to a company that at the time managed 90% of all software downloads in the world. It was a company that really mastered e-commerce and downloading software. And then because we could sell online, I headed up a marketing team that was responsible for selling physical products. Even at the time, we would sell, say, for example, Adobe Photoshop. Well, you couldn't stream that online. Remember, this is the days, right? You still go to Target or Walmart and get an AOL CD. So you couldn't download a terabyte software program. So you just had to buy that physical. So the company got really good at logistics and shipping and packing. And so we said, well, we can expand into other groups. So we started to manage all of the e-commerce for companies like Nabisco, Major League Baseball, National Geographic. And the team I was fortunate to lead actually invented things like email marketing and banner advertising. And so that's where the speaking started, because I would get invited to go to these conferences and talk about how do you market this online business, this new website you just built with WordPress or whatever it was at the time, MySpace or something probably.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what I learned was and I really enjoyed it, was educating people. So I would be on stage and I would educate and show them exactly how to do it. And I would make it just complicated enough where at the end I'd say, if you all get the handouts, you all get everything today. If you just like somebody to do it all for you, just go see us at booth, whatever it was, 745. So, I'd speak at CES and all these companies and did that for a long time, loved it, then got recruited to lead the world's largest business library. And it was a beautiful physical building. James J. Hill Reference Library was the name of it.
Where's that at?
In St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay.
And I was tasked to digitize all of the content. And we built a number of tools. We actually became the business library for the United States Small Business Development Centers and SBA. So we digitized all of the content and made it available to people. And then after 7 years, the board wanted to go in a different direction, which was fine. I ended up working with a dear friend of mine who started a practice management company in financial services. And at the same time, kind of the deal was, I'm going to do a lot of speaking, and I'll also help you market the company. And after 7 years of that, I got into speaking full time, as my career. And then along the lines, started to build out courses, and then courses led to software. Now I have more than 70 different software products.
Cool. Want to ask you about public speaking.
Yeah.
When did you develop that skill, and is it something that you never fully arrive? Or what was it like to develop that skill of public speaking for you? Because you talked about being creative, being a journalist, and then all of a sudden the internet comes out, which I did read a quote yesterday. The person in 1993 that says, "I'm not interested in the internet," was Bill Gates when he was offered it. But then you have this whole experience, and then public speaking, that had to have been a skill, because we're going to talk about skills later.
Sure.
With AI. How did you develop that skill, and what are you doing now to continue to improve?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Maybe you've arrived. I don't know.
I'm an introvert by nature, so getting on stage, it's actually it's the closest thing. I used to play football, so it's the closest thing you can come to playing sports. You have to deliver every single time. There's no such thing as a triple. There's no such thing as a double. Now, some home runs are 500, 600 feet out of the ballpark. Some barely clear the fence. But it always has to be a home run. If it's not a home run, I quit. I'm done. I always have to give my all and make sure that the audience, the attendees, receive extreme value. How I got into it was just kind of by default. When I was working at the public relations agency, the internet was coming out, and I started to play around with Google because it was fun. And I created a presentation called The Little Engine That Could, about how to use search engines. And so it was a global public relations firm, so they shipped me to different offices and started giving that. And I really enjoyed it. I guess one of my skills is taking something that is pretty complicated and make it easy to understand. And
it's a great skill.
Provide hope that, okay, this is really confusing, but okay, after listening to this guy, not only do I have hope, but I have the confidence and I know exactly what to do. In terms of continually getting better, you're always improving. So I have a mastermind group. That are always critiquing me and telling me how I can get better.
It's a speaking specific mastermind group?
It's all speakers, yep.
Okay.
And, speaking, getting on stage is the easy part. The business part, that's the hard part. But so we counsel each other in that. I film many of my presentations, and then just like in football, I break it down. I watch it frame by frame. Where did I put my hands? Where did I pause? So today you'll see a lot of that. You won't know it but a lot of it is practiced. And watching films of other speakers who I admire, where do they do the same thing? You know, where do they pause? Where do they take a breath? Where do they tell a joke? And I also belong to the National Speakers Association, both a local chapter and the national chapter, where once a month I go and listen to other speakers, get their ideas, get their tips, watch YouTube videos. There's an online vault. So it's constant. Well, like anything, you always have to improve. You can always learn something new. You can always be better.
Mm-hmm. So you have this background in technology. You're there when the internet's exploding. You're on the front end of email campaigns and all these other things. That should sound and feel a little familiar right now as far as what we're on the cutting edge of. But Jason, do you have anything for him before we get into AI?
I was going to ask him how. So are you transitioning to AI? Are you using AI now to critique yourself?
To critique myself,
Like, so for instance, if you had a home run presentation that you recorded that you felt was one of your best presentations or your best speaking events, and then you record that and have AI analyze that and break that film down for you, and then compare it against others.
You could upload 10 of them and you rank them before AI as far as which one you think were the best. Because sometimes you may think you hit sometimes when I'm with a prospect, I think I hit a 800-foot home run.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I get ghosted. And it's a whiff, right?
Yeah.
Now you try to be aware. You try to obviously discern what's really going on. But I like that idea, Jason. But yeah, maybe you should try that.
I've uploaded transcripts of presentations and videos to really, what words am I saying? Am I saying, am I confused? Do I sound confusing? And I break it down that way. So I've had AI help me with that. In terms of the video itself, analyzing where do I put my hands, the nuance, the pauses, not really. Now, again, this changes every day. I don't think that in my experience using video, the AI's ability to actually look at video and judge it correctly, I haven't found that to be accurate. There are tools that do it. There are actually tools, I can't remember the names off the top of my head, that speakers will use to do that. But in terms of, when I do that with my eyebrows, when do I put my hand in my pocket?
Sure.
That's just, to me, there's so much. I mean, that's a really good idea. I could build a system to do that. I know exactly what I would need to do.
I saw your brain working on something when you were.
I would need. But you see, how I do it's going to be different than somebody else. So it really has to be trained for something like that to work for me. It would have to be trained on best practices for me. So, for example, let's say I took a few presentations that I knew were a home run, and I uploaded it and I trained it. The key would be telling it why. So why did I do this versus do that? I think it's a great idea. That's one example where I think AI would actually take longer than me knowing, because I can just watch it and tell you immediately versus have AI tell me.
Interesting.
There's so much like volume around getting productive. We've talked about this a bunch, Guff, but what are some of the biggest mistakes AI is making right now as you kind of venture down and consult with organizations and companies and even yourself? Like where do you think those mistakes are happening?
Sure. It's a long answer. So pause me if you need me to stop. But let's start out with what GPT is. So G is generative, meaning it creates something new every time. So unlike Google, like if the three of us go in to Google right now and we type in great Italian restaurant Phoenix, we'll get 5,000 results. And all four of us, our engineer, all four of us will get the exact same 5,000 results. Now, where AI comes in, by the way, generative AI is way different than AI. Even though in the news, they call it AI. AI has been around for 30 years, more than that probably. AI is machine learning. So Google, as an example, would use machine learning to rank search results different based on your search history. So even though your results might be different than my results in terms of the top 100, let's say.
We'd call that the algorithm, right?
Yes.
Even though it's AI. Like
if there's 5,000 results, all of us are getting 5,000 results. However, if the four of us fire up ChatGPT right now and type in, write a review of an Italian restaurant in Phoenix, we'll get 4 completely unique answers that have never been seen before, theoretically never been seen, will never be seen again. So it generates something new. That's something really important, especially if you're doing, if you're looking at if you're looking for facts, because it's not a search engine. It can search the web, but it's not a search engine. The second part of GPT is P is the pre-trained. So what is the data set trained on? So for example, it's estimated that ChatGPT is trained on about 4% of what Google has access to. Now, 4% is still hundreds of billions, maybe trillions of pages of documents, but it's not everything. And then the T is the transformer, and that's the really important part. What a transformer does is it transforms words into numbers based on the context of the words around it. In a sense, GPT is based, or generative AI is based on neural networks, which is how human beings think. So it's all probabilities and predictions, or to say it simply, it makes a guess. Now you have to put in, you've heard of prompt engineering. It's the content we input into ChatGPT or whatever tool you're using. You have to, the more detail you put into a prompt, the better results you're going to get. The less detail, you're basically giving the system permission to guess. And that's where we see the biggest errors in generative AI, is it guesses. And it guesses very confidently. Let me give you an example.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like human
So the
beings,
hallucinations are real.
right? So if I go into generative AI, and I'm going to really simplify this here. But if I type in the color of the sky is, what the transformer does is it strips out the words that are unimportant, the is. It then looks into its pre-trained database, data set of trillions of documents, and it says, okay, we're going to assign. So typically in traditional AI, Google search, it assigns a word a number, a 0 and a 1. Now it's the same number. So for example, the word apple is the same set of zeros and ones for apple the fruit and apple the technology. Generative AI will assign it three unique numbers based on the context. So the color of the sky is, it's going to assign the word color a number, sky a number, is a number, and then it's going to look at the pre-trained data set of all the data it's been trained on, and it's going to say, 95% of the time, and everything we've been trained on, the color is blue. And so it presents blue as the result. And you look at that and you say, that's amazing. How did it do that? That's incredible. Now when I go in and I say, at sunset, the color of the sky is. Now that I've introduced the word sunset, which gets its own unique number, the number for the word color and the number for the word sky are going to change because we've introduced the word sunset.
It's a sequence.
Now it looks at its database and it's going to say, and again, I'm very simplifying this here, but it's going to say, a third of the material we've been trained on says red. A third of the material we've been trained on says orange. A third of the material we've been trained on says pink. I have no idea, so we're going to make a guess. So that's, you're giving, if you don't put enough information in or context in, you're giving it permission to make a guess. Now, unless you write your prompt in a certain way, and we can talk about that, basically putting in a self-contained audit system in your prompt, it's going to present its results very confidently. For most listeners, viewers today, I doubt that they've ever experienced ChatGPT come back with something like this. I have no idea. I just took a shot at it. You determine. You figure out what it is. The problem is it writes it so well. It presents it as fact. Oftentimes it will present a hyperlink with a source. And it will even say, even if you say in your prompt, cite your sources, it will cite its sources. And it will look perfect. And you'll be like, this is amazing. But then when you click on the link, you'll find that it doesn't exist. It completely made everything up. So that's the biggest issue is, and it's why I'm doing a lot of speaking all over the globe. No one's ever really been given the manual on how to use Google, how to use LinkedIn, and now how to use generative AI.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think the boundaries are? Like the limits? In other words, the limitations today versus the limitations in a year, because it seems to be moving so incredibly fast, and there's just new companies and new technology that's just seemingly every every day or more.
Yeah.
The velocity of it all.
Let's talk about the velocity first before I answer the question. So,
My favorite word, velocity.
I like that. I like that word. But okay, so imagine you were with the Wright brothers when they launched their airplane in the early 1900s. That was ChatGPT in November of 2022. So 3 years ago. Isn't that crazy to think, by the way? Everything we're talking about today did not exist 3.5 years ago. So anyhow, that's the Wright brothers. By November of 2025, we were already in a jet airplane. By November of 2027, we'll be putting a person on the moon. And by November of 2029, we'll be flying through the solar system. So that's the velocity of change we're experiencing. Now, if you think about it for a second, the time between when the Wright brothers launched their first airplane and we put a person on the moon was approximately 60 years. That's incredible. Like for thousands of years of human history, the highest a human could fly was how high they could jump. And then from being able to actually fly in the air to putting a person on the moon was 60 years. I mean, that's amazing to think about. We're seeing that velocity of change in generative AI. It's not 60 months, and to some degrees, it might be 60 days, depending on what portion of generative AI. So there is a huge amount going on. We are today in what's called ANI, artificial narrow intelligence. So what you're asking, whether it's a custom program, a third-party wrapper, or a generative AI system, it's doing a very simple, it's been designed to do a single task. Where we're moving to is what's called AGI, or artificial general intelligence. The easiest way to think about that, or some people call it agentic AI a little bit, it's where those individual tasks start talking to each other. And so the system itself, it's analogous to almost having a human brain in that it can make decisions on its own without being programmed. That was not supposed to happen for 20 years when this first came out 3 years ago, or when people started talking it 4 or 5 years ago. It might happen next year. Agentic AI is already happening to some degree. And then singularity, well, that's the Terminator. And that's not supposed to happen in our lifetime, but that's where these systems not only are trained on data, but they're also trained on nuance, how humans think. They can read emotion. They can...
Yeah, I mean, people use it for therapy and clarity for validation. I mean, and big time right now.
Now, that's still artificial narrow intelligence. It's assigning words based on the probability of those next words.
So it'll just
occurring.
get better in understanding the human.
Look, in financial services, I'll use this as an example. So my son's a financial advisor, and behavioral finance, right? It's like if you were to talk to a couple right now and say, what's your risk tolerance? Most couples are going to say, I love taking risks because their 401k has increased 20% a year the last 2-3 years. But when you ask them, well, how did you feel in 2008 if they were old enough to be invested in 2008? Oh, yeah. So point being is there's nuance. People, in the insurance industry, you ask a question, but sometimes that's not the question, or a client asks a question, a prospect asks a question. Sometimes that's not the question that really needs to be asked. So you need to pull back the onion. Today, generative AI is really good at asking the question. Where it's moving to is asking the question that the other person doesn't even know need to be asked. Mm-hmm. And that could be because it reads an eyebrow or a pause. So it has nuance like human beings. It has, or another way to think about it, simplify. Today, generative AI has a higher, for lack of a better term, IQ, than probably everybody on the planet combined. But it doesn't really have a good EQ. Where it's moving is its EQ is better than anybody else on the planet. That's where it starts to get scary, when it can start to make decisions on its own.
Well, let me ask you some, I guess, rapid fire AI questions that I'm interested in. I was recently at a conference and they talked about an inflection point where there'll be more people searching on AI, even though Google's already kind of generating the AI thing. But people will be going to these apps for business owners, for everything, more than they go to just their internet browser. When do you think that inflection point is?
Yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's already happening. Now,
No, I know it's happening, but when is
Yeah.
it going to be, you think, more people actually go to the AI apps than go to their Internet Explorer
Yeah, I
or
think
Internet browser? Because I think it's soon.
I think it's very soon.
6 months
It
to
almost
a year.
reads like an AI prompt
It does.
now.
It does
Just
now.
like
Yeah.
gives you.
I think it's, I'm going to screw up this number, but I think the weekly user base of ChatGPT is about 300 million at this point. So it's a rounding error in terms of numbers of people on the planet, versus even numbers of people on the planet who use the internet every day. But I think especially where the inflection point will happen is we're already seeing it with Google, is where search results are generative AI and people don't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting to see that with some of the search engines. Now it will be interesting, and Google's going to figure it out. Of course they will. Is the revenue model? Because I don't know about you guys, but the reason I use ChatGPT when I ask for a product question, I now use it 100%. I use ChatGPT to get me the first round of what is the best for what I'm looking for, because I can ask it questions, I can
100%.
talk to it, and then it gives me 3 or 4 choices. Then I'll go into Google and I'll figure out where's the best price for those 3 or 4 choices, or the best place to purchase those 3 or 4 choices. ChatGPT even announced that they're rolling out advertising to their free users. See, the problem, I think, what happened with Google for me, and I think for most people, is like, you used to trust it. Now I don't necessarily trust my search results.
Yeah, humans do not like to be manipulated.
Yeah.
And it's cool you brought that up because it reminded me of a story. I was in a training with Dr. Robert Cialdini, who wrote the book Influence. So I was able to do an in-person event with him. And this was only a month or so ago. It was amazing. But one thing he talked about was product placement. So in Seinfeld, they brought a Pepsi out.
Yeah.
And Pepsi sales went through the roof.
I know.
The second time they brought Pepsi out, sales went through the roof. The third time they brought Pepsi out, sales tanked.
Because they didn't trust it.
Because they're like, oh, they're manipulating me.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so it's like, I use Google, like, I wonder why are they feeding me this? And then after a while, you're just like, man, I know this isn't legit, And so it's just, you brought that up, and I immediately thought of Seinfeld and the Pepsi.
So now I trust generative AI.
I do too.
I just do. Why? Because my experience. Because
Sure.
when it gives me a recommendation for a product or an idea, and I test it out, I'm like, yeah, that's really good. That was a good recommendation. Thank you very much. I think what I'm concerned about is when ads start getting introduced, there has to be a revenue model. Eventually.
The subscription base, like the Pro and things like that, isn't enough to.
I don't know.
I know they raised a ton of money on their, on their valuation that they need to generate revenue to back that up, and the subscription base is not enough.
I think the subscription base. I don't think $20 a month will do it, because enough people aren't spending $20. Like, it's amazing to me the number of business people are like, $20 a month? Are you crazy? I'm like, dude, if you can't get a return on your investment in the first 15 seconds of using this,
I 100% agree with you. We have
problems.
the same issue a lot of times with people, people that we lead.
Yeah.
Just say, pay the $20.
Oh my
Are you
goodness.
kidding me?
And I pay it on all of them.
I do too.
I probably have $300 worth of AI subscriptions.
Yes.
Just in the generative AI platforms, not including some of the other tools I subscribe to. So I don't think $20 is enough. And we can talk about, I'm sure we'll talk about trust and risk in a little bit. Enterprise is where they're going to have to make their money.
Sure.
Is enterprise systems. But I'm not even sure that's enough. And so advertising is obviously Facebook, Meta, or whatever they call themselves today, and Google have made billions, hundreds of billions on advertising.
They should license employees, like send employees there to get trained on how to implement AI. We could pay for that.
Yeah.
They could do a subscription, and then anyway, Sam Alton, give me a shout out. I got a business.
That would put me out of business.
Got a business plan for you.
But in all seriousness, I think that's going to be the balance. When you talked about the inflection, I think the inflection will be when can we still get great results and trust it? So the fine balance of results,
Pocket right there.
trust, and recommendations. Click here to buy.
Yeah.
So how are you seeing that improve when you're working with companies or kind of that next level of AI from a standpoint of a company being able to responsibly roll it out,
Yeah.
help in service and sales?
Well, that's a big question because companies rolling it out, security and data security is a huge legitimate issue. And so rolling it out internally is a big deal. Rolling it out externally, there's SEO, search engine optimization, which is basically making sure the code on your website is correct so that search engines can find you. And there's lots of techniques associated with that, including content and backlinks and all that. Generative engine optimization is where the ball's moving, and I think that's what you were talking about. Correct me if I was mistaken, but making sure that my company and my products show up in search results and generative.
It's a big
AI.
question. Our business owners, that's the first thing that they ask at every conference I go to. They're like, "Man, we just figured out SEO.
Yeah.
We feel really good about that."
And it changes every week.
and now it's like this is changing. So yeah, you're right. Now they're worried about
And the
AEO.
challenge is oftentimes it's not a link.
Yeah, it's
Right? I mean, I can go into Google. Let's say I wanted to purchase best AI speaker. I can buy a sponsored link on that. Or I can do a lot with my website and with content and with credibility. I mean, it has to be real to make sure that best AI speaker shows up in organic search results. I can tell you what needs to happen for me to show up in generative AI organic results. But remember, it's generative. So it might work for you. And you run the exact same search 5 seconds later, and it's a completely different answer. So it's generative, and there might not even be a click to my website. It just might have my name. So unlike Google Ads, which are more of a direct response marketing vehicle, this is generative engine optimization is more of a branding. So we're all kind of making it up as we go along right now.
It's an interesting time. And we found that, like, if I say, hey, what insurance broker should I use for this? Each app has a different suggestion.
Absolutely.
And then a lot of times I'm like, I'm paying a subscription. It's recommending me. I'm like, it knows me. I give someone else's phone and it doesn't say.
Yeah.
And I'll put the same thing in, like someone that specializes in apartments, that's based out of Arizona, privately held, all these things. And it'll give another.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh man,
Why
this is
does it
going to be
do
fun.
that? And my hunch is you probably even have memory turned on.
Yeah.
So it's trained. It also knows you. So you would think it would be nice to you and give you your own company just to make you feel good.
Could I just get some validation somewhere? I mean, even the machines won't give it to me.
It's interesting. The more things change, the more they stay the same, right? When we talk about sales later this afternoon, and even today, if you'd like, I still think the greatest sales book ever written is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale
100%
Carnegie.
agree. First one I ever read.
Yeah.
I love it.
You try to memorize it. I haven't yet, but I'm trying to. I'll ask you this question. How did you market your company before the internet? It was through referrals, through networking, through connections, through community engagement. Yeah, you might have, if you were a decent-sized firm such as yours, you might have spent some money on advertising.
Direct mailers.
Direct mail, billboards, sponsorships of the local Little League team. That actually might become more important again. The connecting, the getting
the
out.
yellow pages are coming back.
I don't know if the yellow pages, but again, the answer is I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating time.
Well, what can AI, do you think, will never be able to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Never.
Let's say 10 years.
10 years.
He says nothing. It won't be able to marry itself. Well,
maybe. I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Okay, let's not go crazy. Next 10 years, what will AI not be able to do?
I think AI doesn't have compassion. It doesn't have empathy. It doesn't have vulnerability. It doesn't have human emotion. It doesn't have wisdom. So what's the difference between knowledge and wisdom?
It's a big gap.
I read this once and I loved it. It said knowledge is knowing that scientifically tomatoes are classified as a fruit. Wisdom is knowing you don't put tomatoes in a fruit salad. So you guys are experts at commercial insurance. I'm sure I could go into generative AI explain what my business is, and it can tell me the exact kind of policies that I should purchase. But then you walk in and you ask me a few questions, because generative AI is basing its answer on what I know today. You'll ask me some forward-looking questions, and you'll say, no, that's not what you need. It's what you need today, but that's not what you're going to need 6 months from now.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have wisdom. It's getting better in that area. It can't connect. Like what we're doing. Why are you having a conference? Because you want to connect with people, right? We did work from home for a few years, and it still works. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like, I mean, when I mentioned earlier my ad agency background, my PR agency background, I learned more walking into Dave Mona's office at Mona Meyer McGrath, Mary Jeffries, Sarah Gavin, Jorg Pierock, Chris Worley. I can tell you all of them. Walking into, I could learn more in an hour talking with them than I did an entire year's worth of public relations classes in journalism school.
Mm-hmm.
So the ability to connect. And then the biggest one, and we've been touching on it already, in a world where trust seems to erode in everything we're doing, it can't build trust. Trust only comes from me looking you in the eye and trusting that what you say is right. I think even with generative AI, with any technology, there's always going to be that smidge of doubt. I suppose there's a smidge of doubt even with a human being, but I think trust is the big one.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
We have we have a generation or a couple generations of kids today that don't answer their phone.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not into the human connection for them is very different.
They haven't even set up their voicemail.
Right. Or
I mean, you guys didn't even know Daft Punk around the world. I mean,
That's just because I'm old.
But I mean, does that, so for a generation of folks that has human connection or grew up in human connection, I think that's potentially a different set of circumstances. But you also have now, again, kids that don't answer their phone. They just text or snap or spend 6 hours a day on social media versus.
But they're craving human connection, though.
I think they are.
too.
They're just
They
craving
just
it in
don't
a different way.
Yeah.
We all hear of Generation X, Generation Y, millennials, baby boomers. You know what? I don't care what your age is. We're all growing up in the same generation, the make it up as we go along generation. And that's what's going on. I mean, if you think about it, if we go back to COVID, we're making it up. I mean, nobody knew what was right, and that's why it caused a lot of problems. Should we wear masks? The doctors would say one day you should wear masks, and the next day they got more information. Oh, don't wear masks, or you get vaccinated. Don't get vaccinated. Yeah. We're making it up as we go along. This technology, and we can get into the ethics of why, at least my feelings of it. It's being released at a speed, as we talked about earlier, a velocity that leaves a lot of unintended consequences. So we're making it up as we go along. Work from home.
And velocity is just not speed; it's direction.
Absolutely.
When friction is removed.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of friction being removed right now from
Yeah,
AI in a direction. Right.
And it's going that direction, and
pretty...
there's nothing that's slowing it down. So, again, just make it up as we go along. Both my kids, my son, as an example, was a 100% remote financial advisor.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, Dad, this isn't working. I need to be in the office. And now he's in office. He says, I love going to work 10 minutes early, showing up, talking with people. My daughter, same thing. She's in public relations in New York. She was getting a new job. She's like, hey, I've got this one opportunity with a Fortune 500, probably Fortune 100 company. It's a great job. It's 100% remote. I've got this other opportunity with an agency. They want me in the office 3 days a week. I said, just please trust me on this. Take the office one.
Mm-hmm.
Go in and meet with people. We're starting to see that, a lot of big debate right now in the education world. A lot of schools. I was preaching on this, by the way. I'll just get on my soapbox for a minute. I was preaching on this 15 years ago. Get smartphones and tablets and iPads out of schools. Get it out. People thought I was nuts. We're starting to see the damage that having those devices in the school is causing on the ability for humans to connect. Mm-hmm. So, I think we're starting to see a realization of that. The challenge is there's a 20-year period of people who grew up in this 20-year period where that wasn't the truth.
Yeah.
And those will be the leaders. Those are the leaders. I mean, right now, those are the 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds who are going to be leading our company, leading our country, leading our world, who grew up not answering their phone.
Yeah, I grew up without the internet and with the internet,
Yeah.
without a smartphone, and then, 16, 17 years old, get a phone.
Yeah.
And so I still just remember the difference for sure.
I mean, go to any restaurant tonight and look around. There will be a family of 4 sitting in a booth, and all of them will be on a device. They won't be talking to each other. I'm not a psychologist. My wife is a psychotherapist. She would tell you that that's not a good idea. But
She never analyzes you, right?
I have been diagnosed. That's the problem with being on the road, because I'm going to come home this afternoon. I'll come home Friday afternoon, and I'll open the door. There'll be a pause, and she'll say something like, "I finally know what's wrong with you." No, it's not that bad. I'm just fooling with you. I'm just fooling.
It sounds familiar. That's great. Well, what else do you have for Sam here? I mean, this has been fascinating.
It is fascinating.
Obviously, business owners are very interested in this topic, and I love how he said this is the make it up as you go generation. We're all in it together, and I thought that was very, very insightful. What else do you have for Sam here? He's got to get prepared for our conference, man. We got to give him some time.
I think I think of I read quotes every day too. So the wisdom and knowledge quote is one of my favorite. But then I thought of another one from John Wooden that says, "Be quick, but don't hurry."
Yeah.
And that feels like the AI vibe at the moment, right?
I think the quote today is "Speed wins," and I agree with you. I agree with Wooden. Be quick, but don't hurry. But what happened? I mean, generative AI. Now, again, this is my hypothesis. Okay, so I could
Make
be
it up as you
completely
go.
wrong. But OpenAI used to be a nonprofit organization. I think it still is a nonprofit organization. But its original mission was dedicated to the responsible rollout of generative AI. Because the people who were building this, going back to Jeffrey Hinton, were terrified of neural networks and what it could become. The Terminator movie. They saw that, and they knew that was technically possible. Now, again, so here's where my theory comes in, and I can be completely wrong on this. Microsoft invested billions of dollars in OpenAI. This doesn't make Microsoft an evil company. They have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to get a return on their investment. So I'm guessing that the people at Microsoft said, dudes, we need to start making money on our investment here. Let's roll this thing out. OpenAI launches. Google had been doing AI. Meta had been doing AI. Amazon, Apple. And I think they were all kind of like, hey, we should be careful here. We should be quick, but don't hurry. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
Okay. Be quick, but don't hurry, because we don't know what we're dealing with. But I think once ChatGPT came out, then it was like, everything's off, let's go. And so we're seeing a lot of these technologies being introduced every day. I mean, Claude 4.6 came out today, and I've just started playing around with it from a coding perspective. It is crazy good. It is amazing. But what are the unintended consequences of that? I mean, it's amazingly good at coding. Could a really smart person, I'm making this up, but could a really smart person use this tool that's amazingly good at coding and figure out how to hack into anything? Figure out how to launch a nuclear war? I mean, the unintended consequences. One of the things I say is, like, parents will come with young people. They'll say, what should my kid go? What degree should they get? I said, philosophy, psychology. Why? Because thinking through these questions, I think companies are going to need a chief philosophy officer. Like, if we do this, if we do X, what are the intended consequences of X? And psychology. How do we deal with people? Because I think the AI is going to do a lot except deal with people. And so how to deal with people is going to be really, again, going back to how to win friends and influence people, it's going to become really, really important.
And the TMG People First podcast. That's our People First is our part of our culture.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's skills, there's human skills that I really hope people develop. We joke a lot of times here, I'm not a natural empath. It's taken me years to put myself in my client's decision to do all, but man, that skill is crucial. Discernment.
It's going to be so important.
So many things that you were describing. I totally agree with. Well, what else do we have? Anything to wrap this up? I could talk for hours. So
yeah, no, this is just a fascinating topic for sure. But just thanks. I appreciate you stopping by.
We're excited to receive you today. We're expecting huge things. Okay, so hit a 900-foot home run.
That's what I'm hoping. Can we play on a little league field, or are we playing in?
This is the big leagues.
Oh my goodness! So I'm gonna have to hit the scoreboard. The natural. When I get up to speak, can my walk-up music be, the natural?
We can
music?
change whatever you want. I think I put one for you, but let's change it to that.
We have to change it to around the world.
Yeah, but just kind of wrap up. I mean, I think.
Bring it home.
We're all making it up as we go along, and recognize that. Recognize that critical judgment is going to be incredibly important.
Is that the same as discernment?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
When it used to be I used to joke, like, I watched the news, and whatever Walter Cronkite said, we believed. Like Walter Cronkite, and you all had your local newspaper, your local news person. Picture used to be worth 1,000 words. Video used to be worth 1,000,000 words. Not anymore. How do we trust? How do we make judgments? And I think those are the I don't know if you might call them soft skills, but those are going to be the hard skills.
Skills, yeah.
That we're, as business leaders, going to need to start teaching the people with whom we work. Hiring for that. I don't care what your resume says anymore. Do you have good judgment? I can teach you the rest. Do you have good judgment? That's going to be critical moving forward, especially for small business owners.
Love it. Sam, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you. It's really an honor. I'm really looking forward to this afternoon.
All right.
Great. Thanks, Sam.